welcome back to The Source. We are using a real live chalkboard with Gerry Nicholls because, you know, frankly, being the first one in my family to graduate grade 8, they call me the professor, and they call you the doctor because you cured that case of the mumps pretty good. Today we're going to talk about your political prognostication and campaign doctor skills, though. Look, the NDP has a leadership void. Nicole Turmel, an interim leader. Can you tell us the pros and the cons for the 4 leading contenders whose names have been suggested so far?
Well, Ezra, I think first of all you have to understand the unique dynamics of this leadership race. In the last few weeks or so, I think the NDP has really painted themselves into a corner, a strategic corner.
Well, how do they do that?
Well, with all their, maudlin, overblown, over-the-top rhetoric about Jack Layton, basically telling us he's irreplaceable.
Huh.
How do you replace a guy who's irreplaceable?
Well, I think number one is the obvious answer. There is only one person who could live up to this saint, and that is that saint's corporeal wife, Olivia Chow.
Well, I think she's really an ideal candidate because who else can bring forward his legacy? Who better understands what Jack Layton is all about, his ideas, his thoughts, his values? She can really lay claim to being his mantle, kind of the Eva Peron of Canadian politics. She can really play that role quite well. Plus, this is going to sound crass, but she's had a lot of good TV coverage over the last week.
Well, I mean, don't rule it out. When Sonny Bono, remember Sonny Bono ran for office, he died in a skiing accident, his wife took over. I mean, there have been many political cases. The governor, I mean, there are many cases where someone passes away and their spouse takes over. Do you think Olivia Chow's going to run?
I think she will.
Oh.
I think she will run.
And, okay, the obvious question is, do you think she'll win?
I think she's the odds-on favorite to win it. I really do. I think if she throws her hat in the ring, she's got the emotion behind her, and in politics, emotion is such a powerful force.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are feeling sympathy for her, empathy for her, and she really is the proxy for Jack Layton.
Isn't that interesting? Now, we only have 3 more names on here. Let's jump to the next one. Brian Topp, that's the NDP's party president.
Right.
I guess he can't stay president for long if he's going to throw his hat in the ring, because you can't run the race, be the referee in the race if you're also going to run in it. Tell me what his pros and cons are.
Well, he's on the list because he's been making noises like he's going to run. You can always tell these guys. These non-denial denials usually means the guy's going to run. And he has the pedigree. He's done a lot of good work for the party and success in the last election.
And he's bilingual. Let me ask you, Olivia Chow, does she speak any French?
Well, her French, as I understand it, is very poor. And that will be a detriment to her.
Well, when 2/3 of your MPs are from Quebec.
It's going to be a detriment to her. She can probably work her way around that by saying, I have 4 years, I'm going to immerse myself in the language. But yeah, that's definitely a detriment.
She's got much French as Las Vegas Ruth Ellen Brousseau did. Let's move on to Thomas Mulcair. Now, he is the fellow probably with the most legislative experience. He was actually in the Liberal government provincially in Quebec, if I recall. Sort of the old man, but sort of a grouchy, grumpy kind of guy compared to Jack Layton. Does he even have a chance?
Well, on paper, he's a good candidate because he is from Quebec, which we said is an important part for them right now. He can speak French fluently, and he's got experience. So on paper, he's a good guy, but he's a newcomer to the party.
Let me show you what I mean by grouchy. We got a little clip of him talking to the Sun News Network's own Brian Lilly. I love the grouch. Let me show you what he looks like.
An election is likely. You've called for an election.
Show me where I've said that.
Well, I don't have them in
questions we ask.
So off you go.
I've never called for an election. You just made that up.
Go on to somebody else.
You've made stuff about me before, and you better start watching yourself. You've done that with me before once on something very specific that I talked to you about one-on-one, and I kept it between us. But if you're going to keep making up stuff, you're going to be held to account yourself.
That's sort of tough guy.
It's kind of grumpy.
Yeah, grouchy. I mean, that's not the Jack Layton hail fellow well met. I don't know how that goes. Okay, let's move on to Libby Davies. Well, Libby Davies is a candidate from Vancouver, so basically the last Western redoubt of the NDP. What about her?
Well, Libby Davies would be the perfect candidate and prohibitive frontrunner if she was running for the leadership of the Hamas. She's, very.
But she doesn't wear a burqa. She does not wear a burqa.
Very anti-Israel. She was, so far out on that issue. Even Jack Layton had to criticize her about some of her comments.
Do you think she's a serious candidate, or is just people talking tough right now?
The dynamics of the campaign will change. If Olivia's in the race, I don't think she'll get in because there'll be a woman in the race, and that'll be her niche. If Olivia stays out, then I think she runs.
Well, listen, I appreciate your advice. You've been in political fights for 20 years.
That's right. Over 20 years.
Either in the nonpartisan National Citizens Coalition when you were there, and you've done some partisan work, including in the United States primaries. So I want you to put on, you're conservative, put that aside. Now just think like a political strategist who wants to win. I got a big question for you. We saw an interesting media hound at the funeral. I'm not talking about Stephen Lewis. Talking about Jean Chrétien, who, when he saw a CTV camera, literally hopped over the fence and ran. Me. Why? Because he wanted the world to know he believes in a merger of the Liberals and the NDP now more than ever. And that's my last question to you. If you were paid a gazillion rubles to advise the NDP and put aside the fact that it's against every cell of your body, would you tell them to have an awful mating ceremony with the Liberals, or is that just too horrendous to contemplate?
I would say no, not to do it, because I think the Liberals would say no. I don't think I think the Liberals would rebut.
Really? But the Liberals are so weak right now. They're worst showing in history, you know, leaderless sort of. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you don't think would now be a good time for the Unite the Left?
Perhaps, but you have to think about this as a Liberal. And they're a proud party, and they still remember they're the natural governing party. And for them to take a role with the NDP where they were the junior partner, or where they would lose their identity in the NDP collective?
Do they truly? I mean, they remind me of the knight in Monty Python, who's, you know, both his arms and legs have come back here. It's only a flesh wound. I mean, do you really think the Liberal Party is above a merger, even with guys like Jean Chrétien pushing them into it?
I think they're still waiting for their day to come in. I think they think this is just a temporary reverse, and they're not going to lose their identity in the
So
NDP
you're marking a no.
I'm marking a no for that.
You're marking a no. And on this, you're marking a check by Olivia Chow.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think Chow would be the candidate.
All right, Professor. You know, I'm the professor. I'm going to call you Doctor.
That's good. Wait till you get my bill.
Oh, good heavens. Dr. Gerry Nicholls giving us strategic political advice for the NDP. You did it before on our show, and they came to a 100-seat victory. You were partly to credit for that. Geez, we might have Prime Minister Olivia Chow.